Okay, so leadership theory started out looking at, okay, how in the world does this influence happen? How do people seem to have some sort of power over other people? How do they get them to do what they want? And we kind of looked at these as this idea of, well, there's these awesome people that are in power, and most of the time they're fellas, right? So what do we call those theories?
Great.
The great men theories. So that's really where leadership research started off at. So it focused on, okay, what are making these people leaders? What's giving them influence and power over others? But what they started to find is that as they studied these great leaders of the past and current, wasn't answering all the questions about leadership. So we could say all day that you need to be at least 6 foot tall, probably have light brown hair, be male, talk with a deep voice, and people are going to think you're powerful and influential, right? Is that true? Is that everything you need to be a leader? Heck to the no, we would say today, right? But we were just kind of starting to figure this stuff out. And so then we start going into this era of what we call trait theory, and that's what Chapter 2 is all about. What is it about that makes people leaders? So trait theory, big key thing to know about this, trait theory is all about who the leader is. If we can figure out, regardless of their gender or any of these things, even regardless of what their position is, if we can find some innate traits that all these leaders seem to have, we've hit the jackpot. And what's cool, you don't really need to know this guy's name, but if you keep studying leadership, it's kind of neat because you're going to see it come up again. His name was Stogdell. He's kind of the first one that went on this massive research hunt to figure out these traits. And I'm talking thousands of people he starts looking at. Well, he studied them, and then he found out that there's 124 traits. What do y'all think some of those traits might be? Intelligence. So, leaders are smart. What else?
Self-confidence.
Self-confidence. But just what are some of the words that y'all use to describe leaders?
Social traits.
Social traits, so yeah, like what?
Behavioral traits,
Huh?
Behavioral, in groups.
Yeah. So are they extroverted? Are they introverted? Are they charismatic? Are they not? It really likes you today. I don't know why it's following me around. Gotcha. Sometimes it does this weird thing. There we go. What do you think some other traits are that people, or that they... Huh? Authentic, yeah. Competent. Do you think leaders are confident? That probably showed up somewhere. What else?
They're honest and discriminated by their integrity.
Honest, have integrity, trustworthy. Come on, shoot some more words out to me. Huh? Helpful. Loyal. Charitable. Thrifty. Persistent. Y'all, could we come up with 124 traits in this class?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, easily, right? And so, what good, if someone handed you and said, all right, here's what a leader is, it's 124 traits. What good would that do for you right now?
Give me a cool list to look at.
Give you a cool list to look at. I don't know about y'all, I'd look at it and say, well, there goes my chance of being a leader, because there ain't no way I can do all 124 of those things, right? Do you think? So say, okay, let's say humble. Let's use that one, because that one's kind of sometimes a controversial word. Humility. Is that a trait that can be learned? Or is a person just naturally humble? It's personality. All right, so we have someone here that says personality. Someone disagree with that? So you think that can adapt, can change. Maybe you start out as pretty arrogant, and then life kicks you in the patootie, and you get a piece of humble pie. Okay? What about a trait like charismatic? Can someone learn to be charismatic? Okay, some of y'all are shaking your head no. Tell me why. Why can you not learn to be charismatic?
Well, isn't it like a natural behavior of yourself that
Okay. So it's almost kind of going back to like our first kind of argument about leadership that we really want to sometimes spend too much time on, but are leaders born or can they be made, right? If you kind of go the route that a trait like charisma is just natural, what are you kind of telling us about your assumption of leadership? You're either born a leader or you're not, okay? A good thing to know about trait theory, this is really important, it's not just about who the leader is, but it's kind of this position that leadership or traits are stagnant, right? You either have them or you don't, okay? It's not something that can be learned or developed. So it's innate characteristics. And that does tie into personality a lot. And so it continued, I mean, like for 20 years they studied it and they realized, okay, it's really hard to give a short list. So we're going to kind of step away from trait theory a little bit. But then in the 70s we kind of came back to it and we looked at even more. And we really tried to say, okay, like let's not focus so much on traits, but let's say like personality. People have certain personalities that may make them kind of geared more towards leadership roles versus others, all right? And today, what we have are 5 leadership traits that we say, when we look at all of these studies, so we call it a meta-analysis. So somebody that had a ton of time that I don't have at the moment, Lord, DeVader, and Ellinger, and Kirkpatrick and Locke, they looked at all these studies that had been done and said, okay, what are some commonalities that we see across all these traits that have been identified? And maybe they don't word some of these traits the same exact thing, so we can kind of put them in groups together and then we can kind of come up with a word that says, all right, this is this category of personality traits. Intelligence, self-confidence, determination, integrity, and sociability. Those are the 5. Intelligence. What about leadership? Why do you think intelligence is an important leadership trait?
Because people won't follow you if they think that you're not intelligent or dumb. Like, people aren't going to follow you if they don't.
Okay.
Capable.
So now here's an even cooler connection. This goes back to the idea of influence. What type of power does that give you? Credibility, expert, legitimate power, right? So we're starting to answer that question a little bit better, right? Like, how do people have influence and get people to do what they want? Okay, they have expert, legitimate power. Well, how? They have the traits of intelligence. Okay, you're going to say something, Gage.
Wasn't it saying in the book that you just have to be a little bit smarter than who you're trying to lead?
Just a little bit smarter. Okay, so here, that's a cool thing. So think about it. Politicians. Do they need to be, or would you hope, that they're a little bit smarter than we are? Because they're making some pretty important decisions, right? Do we want them to be like, which I mean, cool if they're neuroscience and scientists and stuff, but like, we want to be able to still understand them, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What happens if someone's so smart that you don't understand them? What do you lose?
Social skills.
You lose social skills? What kind of power do they lose? They lose some referent power. And they actually probably decrease the effectiveness of their expert power, right? Because you're like, okay, how many of y'all hear this about faculty members? Okay? Not to call, I should probably turn this off and not have it like recorded publicly, but it is what it is. How many of y'all have taken chemistry? Does it just feel like it's like up here? And you're like, bring it down, bro, bring it down, right? Like, don't understand it, okay? So we want them, leaders need to be intelligent, but not so intelligent that they lose that influence, that they lose that power. So that's something to think about. Self-confidence. Why is that an important trait for leaders? Something that's come up over 100 years of research.
Because you can't really lead others if you can't lead yourself.
Boom. Hit the nail on the head, Jonathan. You can't lead others if you can't lead yourself. Okay, kind of that self-awareness piece, right? But also, goodness gracious, if you don't believe in what you're doing, how in the world are you going to get anybody else to believe in it? So, can you think of an example of a leader who wasn't self-confident? What happens when someone's in a leadership position and all of a sudden you realize that they're not confident in what they're doing? What happens?
They shy away from their responsibilities.
Shy away from responsibilities?
They end up getting replaced.
They end up getting replaced. Do you trust them? Usually no. So yeah. Determination. Why is determination an important trait? How do you know if someone's determined?
Like they always finish the task they start, kind of.
Yeah, I like that. Follow through. Yeah, follow through is so important. What else about determination?
Just getting started.
Getting started. Hardest thing to do. We can have ideas all day long, right? But if you don't actually put action to your words, you're not going anywhere. Okay? So some determination, that follow through piece too. What else? What about resiliency? Do you think resiliency is a part of determination? Yes. We talked about this a little bit last week too in our definition. So there was that word struggle. And y'all hated it. You struggled with it so bad. Hated the word struggle in leadership. But why would resiliency be important for a leader to have?
There's going to be those struggles, and sometimes the journey is the hardest part.
Yeah. So you just don't want someone with a give-up attitude, right? You want someone that when times are tough, you're going to pull everybody through, keep everybody motivated, and again, follow through, complete the task that you've set up. Integrity. Why is integrity an important trait?
Because you don't want someone just giving you a bunch of hollow promises that you can clearly see through. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of like politicians, when they start actually going to like debates and stuff, you can kind of see like he's just saying that, like he doesn't actually have any intentions to keep his word.
Everybody runs saying they're going to represent their constituents, right?
Yeah.
I'm from small town, rural Oklahoma, and I'm going to represent you because nobody in D.C. understands what we're going through. But then once I'm elected, I'm going to just vote however I want. Does that happen? A lot, unfortunately. So integrity is important. And what I like about this word is that this is probably one of those where there were a ton of different traits listed, and then they are able to find this word to really define the whole category. So what would be some of those sub-traits that you would throw under integrity that's important to leadership? Y'all mentioned some earlier.
Moral.
Honesty.
Like your morals.
Your morals. Ethical. Trustworthy. Authentic. Do what you say you're going to do. All of that. So very important. Last one is sociability. How do y'all define that as a trait?
Being able to connect with others.
Being able to connect with others. I like that. A lot of times people respond to that immediately with this idea of extroversion. And we'll get to extroversion in a second. But sociability is more than just being the loudest person or the most talkative person in the room. If someone's sociable, if they can connect with people, are they going to have an influence? What type of power do they probably have? Referent, maybe legitimate, maybe some expert, right? So kind of cool to see how these traits connect back to that idea of influence. And so we're getting a little bit closer to really understanding leadership better. We've kind of gone through those. Another thing, though, that I do want to point out about these 5 traits that's going to be on your slides is traits to possess or cultivate if one seeks to be perceived by others as a leader. Why do you all think I've underlined perceived by others?
Fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it? Yeah. But I can think I'm determined. I can think I'm sociable all day long, right? But am I going to be... What does it require? What does leadership require in order for there to be a leader? Followers. Okay? So it's actually kind of the followers who make the decision who the leader is, right? And so you may think you have these things all day long, but if other people don't see it, good luck. Okay? Trying to become a leader. So kind of goes into, again, one of our principles in the AGLE leadership program is this idea of authenticity, right? If you say these are things you value and you believe in, let your actions match it so that other people can see it, all right? So integrity is a big piece of that. So realize that really, when it comes to major leadership traits, these are all things that are perceived by others. So this kind of, some of y'all might be interested in research and might not. But if we're going to try to identify the traits of a leader, should I give y'all an assessment and have you rank where you think you are on these 5 traits? Do you think that that's going to give me an accurate picture? No, why not?
It's not how somebody else sees you.
It's not how someone else sees you? Why helps?
Well,
What
there's
do you
like,
think?
I can't think of the exact term of it, but it's like that heightened leadership style to where you think that you're making more of a difference than you are.
Yeah. Like your self-efficacy. Y'all heard that word before? So like your confidence in your abilities may be a little overestimated, right? We kind of have a tendency to do that. Think about your motivation in class. Beginning of the semester, you're like, I'm going to get an A in this class. My self-efficacy is like through the roof. And then you take your first exam and you get a C and you're like, maybe not. But then what does that kind of like reality check hopefully do for you? Helps you adjust, you start doing better, you start raising your self-efficacy, your confidence. If we're wanting to find out leadership traits of people, where they fit on this, what should we probably do? Give the evaluation to who?
The followers.
The followers. Your friends, your roommate, your mama, your daddy. That's usually sometimes pretty good feedback on that. So that brings us to the 5-factor model. All right? Everybody pull out your homework for me. Okay? So what the Big 5 or the 5-factor model did is they took this idea of personality traits, or traits, leadership traits. And they said, you know what, if it defines who people are, and it's really something that you can't like grow or develop in, you are what you are, then they're probably indicative of personality, right? So we all are born. How many of y'all believe you're born with a personality and that's kind of how you stay? Does anybody think your personality changes? Okay. Macy, why does personality change?
Like in high school, I was like very like out there, like I don't know. Yeah, I think your experiences are what your like personality the most.
Mm-hmm.
Like especially like your sports, whatever they'll change throughout. Like.
Mm-hmm. So there's some debate on this. Like, are personality traits stagnant or do they change over time? I would venture to say that they are probably influenced by context. So it's important, I think, when we look at our personality traits, we also consider the context that we're in. But for the most part, what they have found is while there may be like subtle changes every 5 years or so, if you look at the lifespan of someone, that change is pretty insignificant. And so for the most part, our personalities stay the same. So we don't take the MTBI in this class, but it's how many of y'all heard of that before? Taking it. It's like super long and it gives you 4 letters to represent your personality. INTJs in the room. That's what I am. Anyways, if you haven't, there's some free stuff online to kind of like do it if you want to. But it'll give you a percentage. So like the very first thing looks at your level. Are you introverted? Are you extroverted? Where do you get your energy from? And when I take that, I score as an introvert, but I'm like 60% introvert, 40% extrovert. So you put me in small groups, I talk a lot. A lot of people are usually pretty surprised if I know I'm an introvert. Depends on the context that I'm in. So kind of have that nugget in the back of your mind too about personality. But what they have found is that, again, we take these leadership traits, these things that explain who people are, and for the most part, there are 5 personality traits that every human being has. You just differ where you're at on the scale of these 5 personality traits. And what I kind of want to see as a class is where we all are on these personality traits. So pull out your homework, and you should have on here, you have like this top part that has like a little graph showing where you are, but then for each one, it gives you your percentile. So you might be 100% or you might be 25%. What I want you to do, we're going to go through each one of these and kind of talk about what they mean. This side of the room, this wall, is 0%. That side of the wall is 100%. We'll say this row right here, so in between these two rows, is the 50% line. For the first trait, for this idea of openness, and here's another little study tip for you. If you want to remember what these 5 are, remember the acronym OCEAN. And we're going to go through them in that order. So O, for ocean, is openness. I want you to stand kind of in a continuum where you are regarding openness. So if you are closer to 0, you're going to be on the wall. If you're closer to 100, over here, 50 here, 75 here. You know what I mean? Kind of line yourselves up.
So I did not get it done. I mean, I did it on my computer, but I didn't have it printed out.
Okay. Do you know kind of your percentiles?
On my computer.
Okay. Kind of right. This is 100. Yep. If you didn't get to do it, just kind of hang out in your seat because you won't know your answers. Just kind of hang out and see. Yeah. You can kind of help me evaluate the class. How about that? So we can kind of talk. So come sit over here with us, Dominique. We're going to kind of hang out here. You'll join us too? All right. Here, I'm going to make it stop following me so that we can kind of see you guys. All right. Sorry. Nope, you're good. So, where did I put mine? So, openness. Anybody remember what openness is about, or open-mindedness? Describe this personality trait for me.
Original, creative, curious, and complex.
Original, creative, curious, complex.
Low scorers tend to be conventional, down to earth, narrow interest, and uncreative.
Yeah, so are you open to new experiences or not? Would y'all say this is something that if you were to sit down and observe people, you could say, yep, I can figure out whether they're open-minded or not. All right? If this is the 50% line, everybody above here, y'all are above 50%. Why would you say that, yep, I'm pretty open-minded? Explain it. Explain what that means to you.
I mean, you're open to trying anything new that's out of your way or like out of your comfort zone, or a way that you've already learned.
So give me an example. What have you done that you would say is you've learned something new or tried something new?
Like a job that's not agriculture. You don't know anything about it. You went to a job that is zero.
Yeah. So I hear a lot of times students who are majors in agriculture that they're not going to do anything if it ain't related to ag. We had a student, ag leadership student this summer who interned with a company that was not ag. But the moment she got into it, she realized, this is rural youth development. This is really cool. And the rural youth that I'm working with are in the ag community. And wow, this is totally opposite. Anything I would have thought before. She's now considering, like, she's realizing, like, I may have more job opportunities than what I wanted to do. That's kind of open-mindedness. So that's a great example. For y'all, does being open-minded mean that you don't have firm beliefs? Why? Talk to me about that.
I just feel like, I don't know, I think being open-minded is really important, and like that's why I scored high, just because you have to take in what other people tell you. I don't know, like life is about getting a little piece from everybody. Mm-hmm. Being open-minded is allowing that like change to happen.
Yeah.
So just, like being narrow-minded is so boring. But like, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. So all y'all boring, narrow-minded people over here.
Sorry.
Tell me, why do you think y'all scored the way you did? Where are you at?
I don't really think mine so much correct.
Okay.
I'm like in the 8th percentile, but I love to do new things.
Okay. So why do you think you may have scored in the 8th percentile? Like, think about how you may have answered the questions.
Like questions, because I'm not like super into like art and poems and eclectic theater and stuff like that. Just because I'm not into that doesn't mean that I'm not open-minded or will move into somebody or trusting him.
Okay.
All the questions, like whenever you're taking the test, like you can tell which questions are geared toward which area, and a lot of them are like that. Like if you're not artsy and poetic and stuff, then
it is tough because from a psychology standpoint, the arts is where creativity comes from. So it doesn't mean you have to be artistic. Like, I am not going to go paint a fabulous picture for y'all. But do I think how to solve problems creatively? Or do I typically just kind of do what's always been done? Like those kind of reactions, like art, again, so kind of thinking outside of those conventional definitions, maybe, of those words. Why else do you think you tend to be, and again, this is no judgment, this is just who we are, right? There's no right or wrong. Like, bathe in who you have been made to be. It's awesome.
Mine's my background, so I told her some stuff. I'm military, my dad, multi-generational military. So everyone in my family, you stay inside the lines, you do what you're told. I'm not like unwilling to try new experiences, but a lot of times I'm very weary because I'm like, I don't know about that. Like, I don't know. Like, I'll do it, but I'm like hesitant to do it.
Yeah. Kind of need some evidence, maybe a little bit beforehand. Yeah. Why else? Where do y'all think y'all scored? I want to hear from you, Calvin. You're over there against the wall. Why do you think you scored lower on open-mindedness?
I don't know. I thought I was open-minded.
Do you feel like your interests are narrow? Like, what things are you interested in?
Not a lot of things.
Yeah. So, okay. Like, I could be honest with that. Like, I took this is a 2-year-old report for me, but like if I were to take that now, I would probably be more towards the middle right now because, man, when people ask me what my hobbies are or I enjoy doing, I don't know, raising a 3-year-old, that's about all I got at the moment, you know? Like, I don't have time to be interested in other stuff. So it's kind of hard to have that open-mindedness, right? So that's the first trait. Any other thoughts y'all have about it? Why do y'all think that is an important personality trait for leadership? Or to know about a leader? Again, like, there's not a better or worse, right? But
you gotta listen to your followers and think about those things.
Yeah.
I think if you're open-minded, you're going to have more experiences and other things to where you're going to be able to relate to more people. And so if you're having a conversation with someone, you've been able to like have that connection with someone. Whereas if you're closed-minded, then you're not going to really have that connection.
Yeah. Now here's a deep question. If you're super, super open-minded, can you understand people who are not? By definition, you should be able to, but it's hard, right? So that's what I'm saying. There's not really like a better or worse, like each kind of have their faults, but a thing to remember is that when we look at research and we've looked at these 5 personality traits, open-mindedness does correlate. The more open-minded you are, the more effective you're going to be as a leader. So again, there's not a right or wrong, but if you're looking at what do I need to do to be an effective leader, open-mindedness. The more open-minded you are, the more effective people view you as. So just something to think about. So the next one, ocean, sea, conscientiousness. Put yourself on the continuum with where you're at for conscientiousness.
Yep.
Anybody over here score 100% on this? 99, raise your hand. My husband says I'm anal. He's worse than I am. It's bad. He'd admit it. I'm not gossiping. Conscientiousness, what does that mean? What does this personality trait mean? If you're conscientious, you're what?
Organized.
Know what's going on.
That's a lot lower.
Reliable.
Think of an overachiever.
Yeah. Just think, dots their I's, crosses their T's, right? Yeah. Okay. Disciplined, careful. Okay. Those low on conscientiousness. Describe yourselves to me.
Disorganized.
Huh?
Disorganized.
Disorganized.
Lost.
Lost. What else?
I don't know. I don't know how I got any of these.
You know, some of these words have socially laden terms, right? So, like, one of the things it says here is that you're undependable. Does anybody want to describe themselves as undependable? No, because it doesn't sound good. But if we're to be honest, do you sometimes let things fall through the crack?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, just kind of, on the real. Yeah, sometimes.
I'm like underneath 50%, but I feel like I need to be on that side because the only trait that I'm not is organized. And I scored myself not very low, but I scored myself low on organized because I'm organized in my own way, but I'm very dependable. I always get my stuff done and all that stuff.
Okay.
I don't know how I got it. I feel like they got it wrong.
So, well, no, what's cool though, it's pretty accurate. If I had told y'all about this before you took it, it would have actually biased it because then y'all would be thinking, and this is the whole psychology behind a lot of these instruments or questionnaires is that you want as much as possible people not to know what's going on because if they know what you're trying to assess, you can fib your answers, right? So just kind of take them for what they are. If you go back and you take it again, it's probably going to be different, but now you've had a chance to think about it and you're thinking about, well, what do I want it to say? Okay? And that doesn't really give you an accurate report either. So if you say, I think I have a lot of these things, but I'm not very organized, why do y'all think organization might be important to conscientiousness? Obviously, that was probably weighed a little bit heavier in the assessment. Think about a leader. Why would organization be important to an effective leader?
Because you have to know what every one of your followers is doing along with what you're doing, so that way you can keep them on task, keep yourself on task, and keep the goal moving forward.
Yeah, I've worked for a leader before that was dependable, that cared about what they're doing, and I mean when they did stuff, they did it well. But they were a hot mess when it came to organization. You know, you'd have a meeting and you'd ask them a week later about something and they couldn't even remember, what was going on. They couldn't, it gets in the way, right? Think about that. So, I mean, that may be one reason. Any other kind of thoughts on conscientiousness?
I also feel like the words underneath, the description, doesn't fit what I would think conscientiousness is.
So what do you think it is?
When I think conscientious, I just think you're constantly thinking about what's going on or whatever, which is true, but being self-disciplined and well organized and careful I guess goes just more so, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Me being disciplined and reliable doesn't mean conscientious, because sometimes I feel like people that are really reserved are very conscientious.
So kind of look too, if y'all look at the screen real quick, it's one of the things that it says there is decisive. So I do think knowing what's going on helps people make those decisions. And so oftentimes people who know what's going on are able to make those decisions when they need to. And that is something that we want in leaders. So do y'all think research says that you need to be high or low in conscientiousness to be an effective leader? High. There's a higher correlation with that. Okay? Let's do E, extroversion. Where are you at on that? So it says that if you're extroverted, and this doesn't tie in 100% to extroverted, introverted psychology behind it, but tend to be sociable, friendly, fun-loving, talkative. If you scored low, you tend to be introverted, reserved, inhibited, or quiet. All right, let's see. Yo, introverts, y'all my people. Caleb? Why are you an introvert?
I'm
Introvert.
just
Reserved.
reserved. Yeah. I keep looking for self-confined.
God gave you 2 ears, and you use them well. You're a good listener, would you say? Sometimes. Okay. Yeah. Markel,
Well,
you extrovert, you.
Well, for me, like I just like love meeting people. I'm a really high energy person, so like I probably can speak for all of you all like to talk. Like making connections with other people and meeting new people, and just having a really good friendship with people as well.
Yeah. Gage, talk to me about your extroversion. I'm really surprised. I'm not gonna lie. I've now had you in class. I'm like, man, a few words.
Friendly or sociable. I don't know how I am.
Think about though, like your close circle.
I think so, because like even if like we've been in class and stuff, and outside of class, Gage does like make an effort to like say hey and like the fishbowl and stuff. I don't know, you've always been like,
Hey, so we've only had like one class. Every time I see you walk in
You
the class,
are.
you wave, you stop and say hi, you know.
So, okay, this is an awesome example though of the fact that like if we were only to rate our own personality traits, man, sometimes our perceptions are skewed, right? We do need the input of other people, so it's kind of cool. Awesome. All right, extroversion. Do you think what is more highly related to effective leadership? High score of extroversion or a low score? High.
Some people don't take well to me and Markel.
Yeah,
and it scares them.
Yeah.
You have to know your crowd, or else it's going to be bad.
I do think that is true. I do think it does depend on like who you're working with. I kind of can agree with that. I'm an introvert, and so people that are just like over the top all the time, like get me out of the room now. I'm not saying I feel that way with y'all, no, but like, yes, especially if I'm having to work with them all the time, every day, it's a lot. And so, you know, man, I just kick Cami Grace out of our office all the time. Love you. I'm just kidding. We joke because she's extroverted but not overly. Anyways, so yes, what's kind of interesting about this one, it kind of ties into that idea of charisma. Like, it's not fun to hear introverts. It doesn't mean we can't be good leaders, but I call it putting on the show. When I teach, I put on the show. I know I've got to be extroverted, got to be sociable. I need to talk to y'all. I get done teaching on Thursdays at the end of the week, and I go home and I want to lock myself in the room and not talk to anyone for hours. Like, my energy's gone. So it is something that like I've had to adapt to realize, like, if I'm going to be generalizably effective, I need to be a little bit more extroverted than what I naturally am. Agreeableness, where are y'all on this? Jason's like, I'm so far off the charts, I'm not even. Okay. So if you are agreeable, so this personality trait, this scale is looking at whether you're good-natured, sympathetic, forgiving, courteous, or if you're critical, rude, harsh, and callous. Here I'm going to ask for y'all's input. Where do y'all think I am? There's
Wait, zero is rude.
Here. I think you could be a little more.
I think you're in the 70s.
I could see you being.
I would say like 5 here.
Y'all want to know what my percentile is? A 7. I faked y'all all out. No. Let's chat about this. This is one that is so interesting to me, but like when I looked at it, I was like, I don't think I'm rude. But then when I really dove into this, I was like, I kind of am. I'm very analytical. It's my nature. I tend to be critical. Like, I'm always going to find the fault and stuff. Like, it's something I battle a lot. Like, I've been told sometimes when I work in groups that, like, Lauren, you always, like, tear things apart. Well, I'm analytical, and I know that's a strength of mine, so I actually think it's a great thing. But I have to also realize that as a personality, that can come off not so agreeable, right? Agreeable people, tell me about your personality. Help me understand you better.
So every leadership seminar, whatever I've ever been to, I've maxed out my encourage to heart. And I'm also like, empathy is my top 5 strengths. Like, but I'm only a 78. So like, I kind of, this is really fun.
See, I think that's cool with your military background. Like, you still have found that place for empathy, and maybe not everything is as black and white. So I think that's cool. Peyton, you're right in the middle. Tell me about why you are sometimes agreeable and sometimes not.
I don't know, like, I argue with my friends all the time, but it's like stuff that I know about, so like, I'm very set on like what I think is right most of the time, but I really have been forever. But like, the stuff I'm not so certain about, I just kind of like float in the middle, and well, I don't know nothing about that, keep my mouth shut, and just sit here and listen to y'all or whatever. So, I really don't understand. So,
Yeah. Why are y'all not agreeable over here?
Like she said, like empathetic, like I am not empathetic whatsoever. Like it's not that I don't mean to be, I just don't think about it. Like, I don't think about, I don't know, other people's feelings. I just don't. It just like doesn't come to my brain. So like whenever like people are like empathetic, I can see that they're like that, but I don't.
I'm just too blunt.
Yeah. I just want to say what I think, and if I have a disagreement with you, you're gonna know. Like I've had friends ask me, "Oh, do you like my new shoes?" And I'm like, "No, but like if you like them, that's great." And they get really upset by that, but like you asked me, and so I'm gonna tell you.
I feel like another good one would be strong-willed. Like, I'm always told like I'm very strong-willed. Like, I have my mind set on something, and that's like how it's gonna be. Like, I'll listen to your thought, but like her, it's like people are like, "Oh, do you like this?" And it's like, no, but if you do, like that's what matters. But I don't. So I'm like, I guess I'm not scared to kind of say what I think.
I like it. So yeah, you know, we see this correlation that the more agreeable you are, the more effective you're going to be seen as a leader. Do we always want leaders, though, to be agreeable in everything? No. There's probably like, you don't want a yes man, right? Or a yes woman. Like, you kind of want to be in the middle there. And this is one of those personality traits that I think, again, like in the whole, we have our personality, and that's typically how we are. But we do need to realize if we're in the leadership capacity, we need to find ways. Like if you know you're not an empathetic person, try to kind of get some skills to help you figure out, or some triggers that help you say, okay, all right, I need to stop and think, how are other people feeling about this? Real quickly, the last one, because this one's kind of important, neuroticism. Where are you on this scale of neuroticism?
Oh wait, me too.
So this is an interesting trait. Like all the others, so the 4 other personality traits in this model, if you were high in it, then that was a positive relationship with effective leadership. What do y'all think about this trait? If you are high in neuroticism, do you think it has a positive or a negative effect on your... Probably negative. So this is the one that has an inverse or an opposite relationship. Neuroticism. Anxious, vulnerable, hostile, right? Why are y'all neurotic? I used to call my mom this, and now I feel really bad.
Well, in high school, I thought that like I had no worries, everything was fine, and then I think when college happened, I don't know, I switched, and I get panic attacks and fun and dance.
Like I worry, like whenever people leave my house, if they're gonna make it home, like I worry all the time. So this is not a surprise.
How are you so chill?
I was just been really pretty laid back, easy going. I mean, I'm scared of people, I'm not worried about stuff, but I guess I don't ever let it like get to me. You know, honestly, I think I can say I've never had a panic attack or any of that.
Yeah. So this is going to we're going to come back to these 5. Y'all are going to turn these in when y'all go out the door because you're going to get homework credit for these today. But the next thing, y'all actually have another homework that's due on Thursday. So in this week's content on Brightspace, there's another test. This is one that you actually, it's a paper test. And it's not going to give you the results right away. You're just going to answer the questions and bring it in with you. But it's an emotional intelligence test. And so what I want y'all to do is go on, print that off, answer it, bring it to class on Thursday. But it's going to tie into this personality trait of neuroticism. So being depressed, anxious, insecure, vulnerable, hostile. It's going to give us a little bit clearer picture of why do some people tend to be more anxious versus other people who just, things can happen, but it just doesn't seem to get under their skin as much. And again, not a good or bad thing, but just why. And emotional intelligence is kind of a deeper dive into that idea of, how we react emotionally to things may actually be a personality trait of ours. So we talked about how traits started off early in the 1930s, and then we stepped away and we came back. Okay, emotional intelligence is huge right now, and it's 2018. So it's kind of cool to see how some of this is being recycled or coming back around again in a different way. So what do y'all need to do before Thursday? Take that test. If you did not bring your Big 5 stuff today, take it, email me a screenshot of your results by the end of today to get credit for the homework. So if y'all will turn those in to Cammie on your way out, make sure your name is on it. The quiz, I want y'all to hang on to that. That way you have a forever example of what our future quizzes over Chapter 1 are going to look like.
I don't know why.